Michael Saylor, you know, he first looked at Bitcoin in 2013, and he was a skeptic. What Stacy's talking about there, the block size wars of 2017, convinced him that of the robustness of this technology and the invincibility of this technology. And then he did the deep dive, and he is a rocket scientist and runs a technology company. So, you know, he knows how to do his due diligence. And after a couple of years, he emerged as this huge buyer on MicroStrategy's balance sheet. And his use case is that it's a reserve that, unlike the dollar, is not losing 20% due to inflation every year. So that's what drove him to put it on his balance sheet. And at the time, my thought was that this is remarkable because everybody else in corporate America was looking at that money printing from the Fed and saying, hey, why don't we use that cheap money to buy back our own stock? We've seen this all over corporate America, right? From Apple Computer, the biggest of the companies, all the way down. Executives use that cheap money from the Fed. They buy back their own stock. Their stock options, their executive stock options, go up by thousands of percentage points, and they're making lots and lots of money. So Michael Saylor could have done that, but Michael Saylor is saying, you know what? I'm going to go against the Fed. I'm going to attack the Fed. I'm going to go against the Fed, and I'm going to borrow that cheap money. And he did a subsequent offering where he did, in fact, float some debt for 3/4 of a percentage point. And he bought some more Bitcoin. And he's saying, look, I'm going to take that cheap money and I'm going to buy Bitcoin. It is, in a lot of ways, in my view, it's very similar to what we saw with George Soros in 1992 in the speculative attack against the Bank of England, where he realized that there was a total mispricing as Bank of England and the euro, the exchange rate mechanism, was such that, and Stan Druckenmiller was working for him at the time, they could attack the Bank of England essentially, and they made $1 billion in a week, I believe, if memory serves, by exploiting this enormous gap in the marketplace. So Saylor is saying, wait a minute, these rates at under 1% are artificial. They're there only for one purpose, to bail out the insolvent banking industry. I'm going to take that money and I'm going to actually attack the system by buying Bitcoin. And he's already made over $1.5 billion doing this. So any other corporate CEO in America has got to look at this, and many have now. You've got at least 20 have followed suit.
Ever since we came out publicly and started talking in like September, I've had nonstop set of conversations with corporations and executives and large investors on this subject.
Paul Tudor Jones made it safe for the hedge fund industry. Now you've got all kinds of hedge funds involved, and you've got Mass Mutual is an insurance company. They're buying it now, so now it's safe for the insurance industry to buy it. And you already have individuals buying it, and you have high net worth individuals buying it. And so we still have the sovereign wealth funds to get involved, and the state treasuries, the central banks at some point will get involved if they're not already involved. But I think what people need to understand about Bitcoin is that it is the birth of an entirely new asset class, and it's on its own vector, and it doesn't correlate with anything. And it's disrupting the entire global money system and disrupting gold. And gold, as we know, is in the, what, $10 trillion market cap level. And Bitcoin should trade at an even market capitalization to gold. So we're talking 400,000 plus per coin. And that's still a huge return from the current high 30,000s to 40,000. That's number one. Number two, there's just not a lot of supply. The Bitcoins on the supply side is very meager, and the protocol is ingeniously designed so that every 4 years the output or the supply is cut in half. You know, we have the halvings every 4 years. We just experienced one recently in the last 6 months or so, and that of course gets people's attention because that supply is shrinking, unlike the gold market where the supply is, you know, call it 2.5–3% a year. And if the gold price were to get to $5,000 an ounce, you know that the supply would go a lot higher because suddenly technology would improve, people would do more exploration, they would find more deposits. And just like we saw in the oil industry, remember the idea of peak oil, and oil was at $147 a barrel. Oh my gosh, well then here's fracking. You know, the technology closed the gap, and suddenly there was a supply glut of oil. and the price got very, very weak. And the same thing can happen in the gold market. Whereas that's impossible with Bitcoin. It's algorithmically deterministic at 21 million coins. That's it. The supply on a daily basis, we're currently at 900 coins a day, is constantly shrinking every 4 years as per the halving. And that gets, so the supply side of the equation is getting smaller and smaller, and the demand side is getting stronger and stronger. You know, I mean, if you were to plant an acorn into the ground and you come back the year later and it's, you know, a foot high or 18 inches high, you'd be like, wow, you know, this is an amazing return on my acorn. They come back 10, 15 years later and it's, you know, 50 feet high, 60 feet high, right? I mean, this is the seed of a new asset class that is on a vector that is unlike anything else we've ever seen, separating state from money. Never happened before. And the need is going hyperbolic up because states are collapsing. Look at the chaos in America and all over the world. Money printing, parabolic. I mean, look at the money printing that's going on. 30% of all money in America printing, I think, in the last 4 years or something like that. And just an amazing amount of paper out there. And the ability to transact online is instantaneous. Anybody with a telephone can buy Bitcoin. Money managers have no problem getting huge amounts of cheap money. They can buy Bitcoin. I think Apple stock adjusted for splits is, if you were to go back and reverse all the splits, it's trading for around 30,000 per share. So Bitcoin at 30,000 a coin, right? I mean, when you combine gold with a messaging app, you have this phenomenon, and it's not going to get shrink. It's only going to expand exponentially. It's exponentially expanding.